Today on DNVR Buffs Live, why we hated Nebraska then and why we hate Nebraska even more now, the future for Travis Hunter, and where Colorado has an advantage in this Saturday's game. Let's do it. Let's go.
Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. It's DNVR Buffs Prime Time, and he's back.
What's good, my people?
Big screen Scotty.
Yes,
Jake,
sir.
RK, how we doing,
sir.
fellas? Good to see you. Good to be back.
Great to have you, my man.
Today is it's a pretty loaded show.
It is.
Julian Lewis on Shedeur's podcast.
Yes.
Sheesh.
I mean,
Surprise.
Surprise, yeah. Travis Hunter's future in the NFL. A little bit of scouting Nebraska and keys to victory. But today we start with you, RK, because you have something to say.
Yes, I do. And let me first rewind to yesterday. And I read the comments on our show a lot after the show. And, you know, sometimes people are saying completely wild things. And
Yes.
sometimes people have legitimate, I believe to be fair critiques that I take to heart and try to implement into the show. And one of the things that someone said yesterday, and I rewatched it, they were right. We did not have hate week energy yesterday.
Not my best show yesterday, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
okay?
like, I don't know. They were said, we need more energy from you fellas the rest of this week. It's hate week. This isn't just a normal week. And I was like, damn, they were right.
No, I knew it when I went home, even. Like, I knew it was not my best
Good
show.
on you,
so.
too, for the self-awareness.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
recognize that, you could have brought it a little bit more. But that's what today's for, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
So I started thinking back and really trying to like stir up the hate that I have in my heart for the University of Nebraska. And so I started to think about, last year when we went through and we said, why do we hate Nebraska?
Right.
And so I'm going to start there. But I also think that there's a whole new reason to hate Nebraska that has come up only since basically the final whistle when Colorado beat Nebraska's ass 36-14 last year. And so let's start at the beginning because not everyone who watches this show knows kind of the history of Colorado and Nebraska and why we hate them. So we'll start there. And then I'll work my way up to the new and even more real reason that I think all Colorado fans feel a certain type of way about Nebraska. So we go back to Bill McCartney, the most legendary coach in the history of the University of Colorado. And when he got here in the 80s, and one of the things he did right when he got here is he said, all right, who is the best team in our division? Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was Nebraska. And so it's funny because Nebraska people really took a lot of like offense to this. But it was actually a sign of respect at the time. He said, okay, we hate them now. Everyone got that? We good? We hate them. Write their name on our schedule in red letters because that is the target that we are aiming for. And to be the best, you got to beat the best. Mm-hmm. And that's who they are. Nebraska fans would like you to believe that they kind of like laughed that off and just said like, oh, we have a rival. It's Oklahoma. We're not too worried about you.
Right.
But it's actually not the case. It ruffled feathers in Nebraska that Bill McCartney had the gall to walk into a struggling program and point at them. And so Nebraska fans who love to act like they are this holier than thou, incredibly nice group of people, once they get their feathers ruffled, they start to show their true colors.
Yes, they do.
And that leads us to 1989 when Colorado goes to Nebraska. The year that Sal and Essie died. One of their teammates, for those of you who don't know, you should absolutely watch The Gospel According to Mac, ESPN 30 for 30 if you don't. But one of their teammates, their quarterback, gets stomach cancer and dies before the season. They dedicate the entire season to him. And when they go to Lincoln for that game, there's two stories here, so I'll tell both of them. The one that I guess is perceived by some to be more of a myth, which is that there was a spray-painted billboard on the side of the road between Boulder and Lincoln that said, "Sal is dead, go Big Red." But this one for sure is not disputed, which was that there was a sign in the stadium that day that said, "Sal is dead, go Big Red." And I can even pull up, we love receipts here. How about a 34-year-old receipt of Darian Hagan talking about this? And he says, Colorado quarterback Darian Hagan said he was upset by a sign displayed for the Buffaloes to see when they arrived to the game. Hagan said the sign read, "Sal is dead, go Big Red."
Wow.
Etc. And so he went into that. And then I actually found, I didn't find it, a Hawkeyes fan dug up a post from a Husker source who confirmed that there was definitely a sign in the stands that day that said, "Sal is dead, go Big Red." And like I said, when Nebraska fans who want you to believe that they're so nice get their backs up against the wall, they start to show who they are. In that case, that turned the rivalry from, this is like a fun target for us to aim at to try and become a better team and get to the top. And by the way, Colorado was there at that point.
Right.
To, okay, now this is real hatred. You don't cross that line. And I think as sports fans, we all know where the lines are. And we love to get up near them.
Yeah.
But that absolutely surpasses the line.
That was a nosedive over the line, yes.
Absolutely, 100%. The rivalry, of course, then becomes a lot more real from then on. And, even after the late 90s, Nebraska punched back a lot and had their fair share, had more wins than Colorado in the series, which leads to 2001, one of the highest rated matchups between these two teams, and the matchup in which Colorado ended the program formerly known as the University of Nebraska Cornhuskers, beating them 62-36 and taking their soul away from them in a way that they have never found once again. In fact, Colorado goes on to win the Big 12 championship that year. Of this rivalry, that's the most recent conference championship by either team. So Nebraska, who once was a power, has never once been back to where they were going into that game, which was a top 5 team in the country, who was consistently winning conference titles. That goes away. We take a long break, eventually, starting in 2010 in the series. And then we get back to 2018.
Yep.
Colorado marches down there into Lincoln, and Laviska Shenault and Steven Montez combine for an incredible catch to win that game. The next year, of course, the flea flicker year. Again, Steven Montez, one of very few Colorado quarterbacks to have beaten Nebraska twice, does it twice in a row. They have the flea flicker. Nebraska misses a long field goal in overtime to lose. And then that brings us to last year, where Colorado welcomes in Nebraska, turns them over 4 times, and absolutely decimates them in the second half. For those Nebraska fans who like to say it wasn't a blowout, it was 36-7 with like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so you literally pulled their starters, and that's when they scored the
Ryan
last touchdown.
Staub played in that game.
Yes.
That's how much of a blowout it was.
Yeah.
And that's when the new reason to hate Nebraska really, I believe, reared its ugly head.
Yep.
Speak on it.
Because, like I said, when Nebraska fans get their feathers ruffled, they start to show their true colors. Now, all of us sitting here have seen the hate that comes towards Colorado from, I think, probably almost every fan base in the country. Everyone hates Colorado.
Yeah.
But I am being 100% truthful when I tell you the most disgusting, vile, racist, sexist, homophobic, off-putting comments coming from any fan base have come from Nebraska fans. And they will have you believe that they are the nicest fan base in the world, but yet it's when they go home and get on their burner accounts with a corn cob instead of their face on it and some dumb Husker-themed name that they start to show their true colors. And you can't say, oh, this is just one or two people, because we see it all the time.
It started again this week. They were kind of relaxed, but, yesterday picks up with the press conferences and stuff, and there they are, right in my mentions.
Oh, yeah.
2 people caught blocks yesterday.
Exactly. And I quote tweeted someone, what was it, last week, during week 0, who was a Nebraska fan who said some disgusting shit. So, to me, that's a whole new part of this. And, it's been certainly an underlying storyline of the entire Coach Prime era in Boulder, of just the type of nasty behavior that comes out on social media. Nebraska has by far been the biggest culprits of that.
Well, go back to yesterday, the video that we showed in Matt Rule's press conference. That first question, the clash of cultures. Come on.
Absolutely. Okay. My rant is over.
Well done on that history lesson, for real.
Thank you.
Because I didn't know most of that, to be honest with you. And I saw a comment on the chat there saying that they need to let you tell that story to the team before the game or something. Because that dinner gave me goosebumps just listening to it, just how far back and how serious this rivalry is. It's definitely got me juiced to be in Lincoln in Memorial Stadium on Saturday night for what should be a really good football game.
Yep. I love that you said that, because I was talking to one of my friends last night, and he literally said what you just said, which was people forget how long this goes back and how much it means.
Yep.
And for somebody like myself who's born and raised in the Midwest, doesn't really have a historical connection to this part of the country and these 2 universities. Yeah, it's been pretty eye-opening. That story right there about Sal in particular was that's some interesting stuff for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's basically since Coach Prime was hired, they're the weirdos who somehow have this weird obsession with his feet and toes. Like, it's crazy. Like, constant stuff about that. Like,
they really are obsessed with that.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then, obviously we have a black quarterback and all that, so he becomes a target. And it's just it was turned up a lot since Coach Prime was hired in terms of their disgustingness. Yeah,
I had someone in my mentions today, a Nebraska fan, saying, "Oh, Travis won't be going to the NFL because HBCU players don't go to the NFL."
Yep.
That's again one
dog whistle.
Exactly, but it's also just one example of something that I've seen damn near on a daily basis since the end of last year's game.
Yeah. So when they say that we're the nicest fan base in the country and all this blah blah blah, we've seen the truth. We know.
Exactly.
Anything else? How about the article? Jared Polis just talking to the team, telling them not to wear red. How about that? The N really does stand for knowledge.
That just shows you how thirsty some media outlets out there are to post something about Colorado that they know is going to get the Colorado haters riled up. No research done. Mm-hmm. Like, they hear the governor,
they're like, ooh,
they're going to love this.
Yeah,
they're going to love this. And yeah, it's crazy. Like, all journalistic integrity out the window sometimes, and it's pretty sad.
It absolutely is, and it is. It's what's crazy is that happened once, and I thought it was funny.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, like you got a little overzealous. Mm-hmm. And you published it, and then you realized quickly that it was wrong. You issued a retraction, whatever. The fact that it happened again 24 hours later is just mind-boggling to me, because it just shows you how little due diligence is done on this stuff before pressing publish. And, I don't write as much as I used to, but I remember when I used to have a big story, and I would hover over that publish button. And then I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to read through it one more time. I'm just going to double check one more time. I'm going to text that source one more time and say, are you sure you're cool with me posting this? Whatever it was, I felt like there was like this sense of responsibility. There's times where we accidentally say something wrong on this show and then we get corrected. We're like, oh, sorry, our bad.
Right.
When you're sitting over an article, you control what goes out and when. And so you have the ultimate power over whether or not you are being factual and correct. So this rush to get something out because it's going to drive numbers, because now you've got the Buffs and Coach Prime and politics all crossing. You're like, oh, this is a gold mine, and you just rush through it and press publish, only to get called out within 5 seconds. Like, that's got to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
So just be aware if you're headed to Lincoln. These are the people we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And I don't want to do the whole like not all whatever. Like I saw some Nebraska fans in there being like, it's not all of us. Like, and that is I believe that to be true.
For sure. It's like every fan base.
Of course. Theirs has been especially bad though.
They have been. Do you want to talk about Empire today?
I'm a little riled up. Yeah, let's talk about Empire today. If you're thinking about getting new floors, you got to hit up our friends over at Empire today. They're the absolute best. The floor that we have our feet on right now was crafted by the great folks over at Empire today. So make sure you get over there and schedule a free in-home estimate today. And how about this deal? I think it's the biggest discount from a monetary standpoint we've ever offered, which is all listeners can get a $350 off discount when you use the promo code DNVR and you get new floors from our friends over at Empire Today. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DNVR for details.
Russ in the chat says you left out the fact that Tom Osborne cast that one vote too.
Great point. Great point. I brought that up when I did the Mark Titus show and I forgot it this time, but I'll hit on that after you.
Shout out to Bet365, my favorite book out there. They've got their early moneyline payouts going right now for college football. NFL starting tomorrow, too. Happy football season again to everyone.
God, we made it.
The Buffs, last I checked, were 7-point dogs.
7.5, depending on the book.
Okay. I got it right here. Yeah, 7-point dogs. I've already hit the money line. You've hit the money line?
Oh, yeah.
They are plus 220 on that money line. So there you go. Hit them up over at Bet365. You can sign up with the code DNVR365. All you need to do then is deposit $10 and you can cash in on the bet and get offer. Just place a bet of $5 on anything, really. It doesn't even matter if that bet hits. Once that bet clears, you'll get $100 or $200 now, right? That's what the deal is?
$200.
$200 in
Update
bonus bets.
That copy that you have written in there.
Well, I will do it right now. Get $200 in bonus bets deposited directly into your account. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, one last note here. One of the favorite go-tos for any Colorado rival, longtime Colorado rival, when Colorado's national championship is referenced, is that they split the national championship with Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to get into my whole diatribe about how dumb the coaches poll is, but back in the day, the winner of the national championship was determined by the AP poll and the coaches poll. And in that season, Colorado won the AP poll, which, again, generally accepted as the more legitimate poll.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech won in the coaches poll.
Right.
Legend has it, and I'm sure Dave Platty, if he's watching or is around, could give us the exact facts on it, is that Tom Osborne, the head coach of Nebraska, who had a vote, of course, in the poll, left Colorado out of his top 25 entirely.
Yep. This thing goes deep.
That's the definition of petty.
And I know for a fact that he had them lower. I just don't know if it was that he ranked them 25th or he left them out or he had them 5th or whatever it is. But his vote swung it so that Colorado was not number one.
Yep.
Which is some
That's crazy.
petty stuff.
And immediately discredits the validity of the coaches poll too. As if we didn't already know that. All right, let's get into we kind of went back and watched some of the tape on Nebraska against UTEP and their win on Saturday. You want to start their offense or defensive side? Offense?
Yeah, sure. Wait, really quick. Jesse in the comments said, RK, I was on that GT team. We were undefeated.
Sheesh.
Great team. Great team. I have no hate for Georgia Tech until next season. I think we play them. But great team. Good job. Congratulations on undefeated season. That's actually badass.
That's awesome.
Okay, I've got some notes on Nebraska's offense here. Obviously, we already talked about Raiola a lot, but very confident in his arm, willing to go deep, but also willing to hit those layered intermediate throws over the middle, too. He sees a window, he's going to take it. There was some times I think he was a little hesitant and just slow, I guess, in his decision making, but he still ended up making a right throw on Saturday against UTEP. But I think that's an area they could take advantage of. It's a mix of 11 and 12 personnel from what I saw. They do like to go big with the tight ends, but they will spread you out in 11, move the running back out and stuff. They have a weakness, though, I think, that I saw on tape.
Speak on it.
The right tackle, number 54, big, 6'9", 315.
Jeez.
Cannot move his feet.
Okay.
They chip on that side constantly. They help him a lot. And there were a lot of plays where he was left on an island to block, and it was inside, it was around the edge, like he was just getting murdered, man.
Yeah, and I also brought notes today.
Oh, let's go.
So that is, I think, a great point. And look, Colorado's pass rushers are going to be infinitely better than what UTEP brought to the table out there.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to get a little bit of pressure. I thought Raiola did a good job. He was working with pretty clean pockets, and even when he had breakdowns in certain areas in that pocket, he had soft spots that he could just work himself to and make a play, and he did a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
What I thought their weakness was, though, goes back to something we talked about yesterday, Jake.
Okay.
And I know this will probably surprise you, but I'm going to say I think you were right and I was wrong about something.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard those words very often.
So we were going back and forth on whether or not Dylan Raiola will target Travis Hunter in the game.
Right.
I said no, you said yes. Upon rewatch this morning, I realized they were incredibly reliant on Nair, the wide receiver, and kind of in every big moment, that's where Dylan Raiola looked.
Mm-hmm.
To my eyes, it kind of felt like he was really the only one that he truly trusted.
Well, look, we go back to last offseason. This is the only guy we heard about, coming into Nebraska. Like, watch this guy. He's coming from Texas or somewhere. Like, I think it was Texas. He scored a lot of touchdowns at Wyoming, too.
Yeah.
When he played, he tore his ACL or something like that.
Yep.
He didn't play last year.
Yeah.
So he was a complete non-factor.
Nair really like that, and I agree with you, too. Like, he was targeted a team high 8 times on Saturday. Jamal Banks, their other pretty good receiver, was second with 4 targets. So I agree with you. There's definitely something there where Dylan Raiola clearly trusts Nair, and why wouldn't you? He's a talented dude, can take the top off of defense. That's going to be an interesting matchup, whether that's Travis, whether that's DJ, perhaps even Preston, on how those 3 cornerbacks kind of match up with Nair. But surprise, surprise, man, I think this really comes down to the quarterbacks. Y'all know how I get down.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key to this game is making Dylan Raiola, not for the entire game because he's a really talented quarterback, but at certain points, certain critical moments of the game, this CU defense has to make Dylan Raiola look like the true freshman that he is. And I think the biggest part of that is confusing him pre-snap with different looks. Obviously, Colorado played over 70% of their snaps in man coverage last week versus NDSU, which was clearly a game plan thing. They
not just in man, but in cover 1.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. They clearly didn't respect NDSU's pass catchers, right? You're not going to be able to do that this weekend. Even if you still aren't afraid of those pass catchers, Dylan Raiola can make you pay with his arm talent. So, again, the biggest thing is making him confused. Obviously, he hasn't seen a lot of college football defenses and coverages. He's only seen UTEP in a live setting. So that's going to be very imperative on defensive coordinator Robert Livingston to switch up those pre-snap looks and even give him different looks as the ball is being snapped, kind of post-snap, and changing his eyes, changing where he thinks he's comfortable throwing the football. And honestly, the biggest thing, too, is finishing plays with sacks. It's not going to be enough to pressure Dylan Raiola, get him off his spot because, again, he can throw, he can extend plays, he can throw off a platform, throw out of the pocket. So just because you get pressure on him and get him off his spot, that's not going to be good enough because he can make you pay, man. This is somebody, Raiola, who I've been covering, writing about, talking about in my last job when he was a sophomore, junior in high school, when he was playing football in Chandler, Arizona, before he even transferred to Buford, Georgia to play high school football. And again, he was, at that time, he was deciding pretty much between Ohio State and Georgia. And that should tell you really all you need to know about this kid's talent because he's full of it. And this is honestly the best. I mean, it's not like Colorado and Nebraska are playing anytime soon here moving forward, but true freshman Dylan Raiola versus a senior Shedeur Sanders, who's next year is going to be a first-round draft pick, you should feel pretty good about that matchup, which obviously is the most important position on the field. So it's going to come down to that, but this CU defense has to affect, and again, like I said, make Dylan Raiola look at certain times like the true freshman that he is.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to pay off Jake's moment of me saying I think he was right and I was wrong.
Yeah.
Is just, I think there's going to be a point in the game where Colorado gets Travis Hunter matched up on Nair on a third down.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to throw it to my guy.
You know, exactly. Raiola gets back there. His first read isn't there. And he says, all right, I'm going to give my guy a chance. And in turn, what he's going to be doing is giving our guy a chance. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. I love everything you said about pressuring him. Look, going into that quarterback matchup, and you mentioned it, Dylan Raiola as a true freshman quarterback is really special. And he, I believe he had the highest PFF grade of any, what was it? I think it was like any true freshman quarterback in the last 10 years or something like that. And he had a 78.5 PFF grade. So again,
Pretty
really
good.
impressive and great company to be in. At the same time, Shedeur had a 90, I think 90.7.
Yeah, it was 90
grade in week one. Again, PFF not the end all be all of anything, but just puts a frame of reference of like he looks really, really great for a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
The other guy, in my opinion, is going to go be the number one overall pick in the next NFL draft. So, like you said, it should be advantage Colorado in that department.
No doubt.
Wait, Jake, I think your phone charger is putting static into the mic. I think.
It's not touching anything.
I don't hear it. I don't know if you need it. Sorry. I just barely hear it.
Get rid of it.
Well, it's
Yes,
gone
that
now.
was it.
Jake's got an entire circuit city going on over there.
Look, man, this is an old phone. It needs to be charged multiple times a day, okay?
Same, man.
Defensively, it's kind of the same story as last year. They're very strong on the interior defensive line. Edgewise, I don't think they have a true impact player there. They're fine on the second level. But, man, that secondary, they could be in for a very, very long day on Saturday. It's a lot of off coverage, zone drops. They're not a very aggressive defense in the back end. And they're not really the biggest defensive backs either. So, Will Shepard, Travis Hunter, it's your time.
Absolutely. And when I watched this, I thought that UTEP had room over the top. Obviously, they had the one big play for a touchdown, but there's two other times where they put it down the field and like they just needed their wide receiver to kind of make a play on the ball, and they weren't able to do it. I actually think that when Nebraska watches the Colorado tape from last week, they're going to say, we're not going to let them beat us with 70-yard touchdowns. So let's get back a little bit. And I think that should play into Shedeur's hand if they want to do that because, one, he's going to have to deal with less pressure if he's just going to be able to attack zones underneath. But two, he has so many weapons out there. And I think the chemistry that he has with those receivers is on a different level this year in terms of knowing where they're going to be when. So I think Nebraska and just about every team, and I don't know if there's a team in the Big 12 that thinks they could man up this wide receiver group. I don't know if there's anyone in the country that thinks they could do that. So basically anyone is going to be damned if you do, damned if you don't against Colorado this year. You want to try to take away the big play and take away the over-the-top stuff and dare Shedeur Sanders to take what you give him, I just think Shedeur will just do that. He'll do exactly that and take what you give him and dink and dunk you down the field. So I'm pretty confident that Nebraska is going to try to force Shedeur to do that this week. And I'm also very confident that he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the book on Colorado offensively after week one. You know, you try to keep everything in front of you. You play off coverage, like you mentioned, RK. And I think that if that's a game plan that Nebraska decides to deploy, that's going to open things up underneath for LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Horn Jr. in run after the catch situations because you get them the ball in their hands. 5-yard hitch. We saw Travis Hunter literally take a 5-yard hitch for a 41-yard touchdown last week. But those quick slants out of the slot, those in routes from even the outside receiver spot, again, you make a accurate throw, get your receiver in stride, and I think there's going to be a lot of room to run for those two guys in particular that I just mentioned. Obviously, I've been super high on LeJounte this offseason. He had a bit of a quiet day, although he made some pretty big plays last week. But I think this is the game that people wake up and realize that, you know, he is really one of them ones. And also, too, another thing, talking about Nebraska's defense versus Colorado's offense. UTEP dropped back. They had 26 pass attempts last week versus Nebraska. Nebraska was able to muster just 1 sack. That was interesting to me. 3 of their 4 top sack leaders from last season are back, but it didn't really ever seem like there was legitimate pressure being generated by that Nebraska pass rush. Obviously, they got to Shedeur 7 times, I believe, last year. I don't expect that number to be the same or higher this weekend. But again, if Shedeur has time, whether that's, you know, Nebraska's plan, you know, not bringing pressure, dropping 8 in coverage, if he has time, that's scary. That's a scary sight, bro. It's gonna be perfect timing. And again, these receivers, they're just better, in my opinion, than what Nebraska is offering up from a secondary perspective. So again, I think obviously Colorado's gonna have the upper hand on that, you know, department and more games than not that they play this season, but I think that's going to definitely be evident this weekend for sure.
Yep.
Speaking of perfect timing, did Chris Fowler sneak a little reference into CFB 25? Or I don't know if he says it for every quarterback because I only play with Colorado. But when I hit a deep pass, like 1 out of every 5, he'll be like, and look at the perfect timing from the quarterback here.
I don't hear that, no.
So I think he did. I think he snuck that in for the Buffs.
That's dope.
Anyways.
UAB doesn't get a lot of Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler, so.
That's tough. That's tough.
I have one more point, though.
Yeah, go.
What Scott said, they don't really create much pressure, especially from the edges.
Yeah.
But it's those interior guys, 0 and 9, Hutmaker, and what's the other guy? Robinson, I think is his name. Yeah. Those are their beasts on defense. This is a massive week for the interior offensive line of Colorado. Hank Zielinskis, you know, he struggled at times last week against North Dakota State.
Yeah.
The guards, too. I think Benson and Justin need to be a little bit better, too. I think that was really the biggest weakness on Colorado's offensive line last weekend. So those guys need to step up. If that happens, I think you can expect to see a better running game. You can expect to see Shedeur under less pressure than he was even last week. And you'd handle their best defensive players.
Yeah. And one of the things that 3-3-5 defense wants you to do is play more east-west, which obviously was a big part of Colorado's attack against North Dakota State because they felt like they could beat them out in the edges. But if you go back and watch the game against UTEP tried some of that east-west wide receiver screen game.
Yeah.
And I will say the quarterback didn't have enough zip to get it out there and let it develop. But Nebraska likes that because they've got a linebacker who's out there on that side of the field just waiting to go blitz anything you throw over there. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing, and I feel like this never happens whenever I say I want to see something. I've already talked about I want to see some sort of creative runs. Give me counter, even if you do sweep out of the shotgun, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I also would like to see Colorado motion in protection for, like, if you want to take a shot play. And they actually did it last year against TCU in the first game. But it's like, you know that they have 2 hosses in the middle that are going to try and muck up anything that that takes time to develop. So bring in a tight end and just get some of that, like, H-back motion to just stand behind Hank Zielinskis, who obviously struggled a little bit last week, and just give him a little extra help back there if you're going to try to go down the field.
All right, we got to take a break. Sorry. Shout out to Z-Biotic. When you're out enjoying the scenes in Lincoln, tailgating, probably partying on Saturday night too, after a win. Before you do that, hit up our friends over at Z-Biotic. It's a pre-alcohol that just leaves you feeling fresh. So you don't have to worry about going out and partying too hard. Whether it's vacations, weddings, birthdays, reunions, there's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/DNVR Buffs. You will get 15% off your first order. And when you use DNVR Buffs at checkout, It's backed with 100% money back guarantee. If you're ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you, no questions asked. Again, zbiotics.com/DNVR Buffs. Use the code DNVR Buffs, all one word, at checkout for 15% off. Shout out to ZBiotics.
Big shout out to them, and also shout out to Circle K.
Ooh.
Damn. Just got
that
some
thunder?
loud
Yeah.
thunder.
Sheesh.
Shout out to Circle K, who will be fueling our road trips this season,
Yes, sir.
literally and figuratively.
Yep.
We'll be hitting up Circle K, I think, some point tomorrow to just stack snacks for our trip to Lincoln this weekend, and also literally to fill up the bus as we make our way through America. So shout out to Circle K. They've been amazing partners for us, and they're also the go-to whether you're looking for a big old Polar Pop, some like peach rings. Scott, what's your favorite road trip snack?
Some honey roasted cashews.
Ooh,
Yeah.
healthy yet delicious.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you want that or anything else, go over to circlek.com/inner-circle to get a discount on your snacks and your gas, and check them out for more information on how to become an Inner Circle member.
Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel.
Couple more things. If you're going to be in Lincoln, we have a tailgate. So come through if you're looking for something to do before the game. Hit us up if you're looking for a link on how to buy tickets to that. Also, if you're not in Lincoln, make sure you swing by the DNVR bar to watch the game here. It'll probably be an absolutely packed house for the Buffs.
Yep. Come hang out.
Can I piggyback on something you ended that last segment with?
Sure.
Real quickly, I'm sure
Yeah,
we got to
quickly,
move on. Talking about just creative runs. I thought it was really interesting when Coach Prime was asked about Draylon Miller yesterday and how it made me think about how he can be a versatile chess piece offensively, right? Because he's listed as a receiver, but he obviously looks like a running back, can play like a running back, take carries out of the backfield and whatnot. And Coach Prime talked about the fact that some defenses won't adjust to him being on the field because they see him as a receiver, but you can use him, move him back to the running back, and you can still get, plus numbers in the run game. I think that's an interesting wrinkle that it looks like that offensive staff has at least flirted with based on his touches, 2 catches, 2 rushing attempts last week. I think that's something that a wrinkle that should be added to, and I think it could give this offense just a different gear, particularly in the red zone, which I think they still need an answer for.
We haven't seen the true extent of Draylon's role in this offense yet. Not
Absolutely.
even close.
But again, being on the field with that first snap and early on in that game, I think says a lot.
By the way, that last reception he had along the sideline on that RPO when he steps out of that tackle, bro.
It was flashes
He's
of that
nasty.
insane
Flashes.
highlight he had in the Texas State
Yep.
championship game.
Yep. He's sick. All right. CBS Sports published this article today from Matt Zenitz. Headline, what NFL scouts say about Colorado two-way star Travis Hunter, who will have to choose between wide receiver and cornerback. There's some very interesting stuff in here, obviously just projecting Travis's role in the NFL. Which position will he play if he can play both ways? This is a quote from a North Dakota State staffer after the game. He said, "Our offensive strategy was to make him stay busy when he played defense so that he wouldn't be as great on offense, but he wasn't fazed by the activity. His mindset and mentality is what makes him somewhat generational, if that's the word for it."
If that's the word.
I hate
for
to
it.
do this to him, but kind of reminds me of these people publishing articles without doing any due diligence. I could have told you that you're not going to tire out Travis Hunter just by having him run around.
Well, they found out.
Yeah.
So Matt Zenitz also talked to an NFL personnel source about Travis's role in the NFL. Some good stuff here. He said it will be interesting to see how it plays out. That will be a healthy discussion. I know several scouts of that same opinion. Better wide receiver prospect than cornerback. When I watched him this summer, I was thinking receiver over corner.
Yep.
There's another quote here. A lot of it, I think, will come down to what he wants to play and that receivers get paid more. That's just a higher paid position. So if he wants to play it, it'll be interesting to see how teams handle it. But I think he can play both. I think you've got to treat him as a corner right now who can also play receiver just because the body of work at receiver is smaller. So I'm leaning corner, but he can play some receiver. So he's pretty unique that way. The ball skills and how he goes up and gets it, his hands are ridiculous. You saw it on that last touchdown against NDSU. His ability to come down and pluck it is very impressive.
So I think this wide receiver or corner debate pretty much ended today. And
Yep.
it goes down to a couple numbers. The first number, 4 for 140 with 110 million guaranteed. That, of course, is Justin Jefferson's contract that he signed in June. And then the contract that got signed today for our guy,
Best corner in the league.
Pat Surtain, for 96 with 77 guaranteed. 4 for 96 with 77 guaranteed. So a total difference of $44 million on the contract and a guaranteed difference of $43 million. I mean, think about that. That's the best wide receiver in the league and the best corner in the league, or arguably the best corner in the league.
Arguably, yeah, for sure. Definitely in a discussion.
The point being, the ceiling that exists for wide receiver money is so much higher, and I don't think Travis Hunter plays this game for money. He plays this game because he loves it, but he's also said that he loves, or actually Coach Prime has said of Travis that he loves playing wide receiver more than he loves corner, whereas corner is just more natural to him.
Yes.
And he, as Coach Prime would say, he can roll out of bed and play it. So if the NFL is going to make him choose, which I believe would be a mistake, I think that the choice would be kind of obvious to say, okay, I'm going to play the position where, 1, I like more, 2, I can make more money doing, and 3, the other team doesn't get to dictate really how involved I am. When you're a lockdown corner in the NFL, some of your best games just happen where you didn't do a damn thing because the other team said, we're not messing with him.
Right.
It's a kind of a waste of Travis Hunter if you let him stand on one side of the field for an entire game and not get involved.
Precisely.
So to me, at the very least, you're playing him a significant amount of snaps on offense. But again, I would play him both. And if you're going to say he's got to choose, he should absolutely choose wide receiver.
Yeah, I think, again, if there has to be a choice, I think it's a pretty easy one. And for part of the reasons that you mentioned, like even from an NFL franchise's perspective, like the one that chooses to select him near the top of the draft, are you really going to have him on your roster, on your team, and not utilize him on offense? Offense sells tickets, as the old adage goes. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that fan base would get rabid. You know what I'm saying? If you had Travis Hunter on your team.
And you scored like 14 points in a game.
Exactly, right. And you're not even, targeting, getting the ball in his hands, aside from what he might do defensively. So I think for that reason and those reasons, I think, again, if a choice has to be made, it should be pretty easy. I mean, you guys came up with you guys were the first one that I heard the Justin Jefferson come to, and I mean, that says everything that needs to be said. I don't know another receiver that's been seriously compared to Justin Jefferson. So, and what you saw last week, I mean, that just, man, it's just the tantalizing, I'm not even sure the word I'm looking for, but, just the potential of him in an NFL offense with a good NFL quarterback, especially if you're a team, you have your quarterback of the future in place. The first thought is to pair him up with a superstar wide receiver like him. And even if you don't have a really good quarterback, you're probably thinking we need to try to insert some type of juice into our offense. And Travis Hunter would do just that. So, again, I think there's some place for him in some packages defensively, but I think he should be a full-time receiver in the NFL.
I mean, I keep going back to the 2022 Celebration Bowl, man. What he did at wide receiver
You
in
love
that
bringing
game.
that up. That's so funny.
I mean, since that game, I've just thought this guy's a better wide receiver than cornerback. He just is.
No doubt.
And then you can say what you want about him, but Kurt Benkert had a whole Shedeur breakdown.
I watched it. I was just going to reference this. But
Yeah, it was great. He broke down Shedeur's game, and in it, he's talking about how insane Travis is all the time and stuff. He also compared him to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
What's everyone's issue with Kurt Benkert?
Just because he was a backup quarterback in the NFL and wasn't very good. They just,
Okay.
yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, I've watched like some of his CFB 25 clips and found those to be entertaining. And then I watched that whole breakdown last night, and I was like,
I don't see much of him, but I like him.
Yeah.
From what I've
He's
seen,
fine.
I was just like, yeah, this guy knows ball. I think it's what happens is then he comes out with a passionate take about like someone being trash.
Right.
And they're like,
everybody's
how could
just
you
like,
call
yeah.
someone trash
Well,
when you were trash?
It's Twitter dunking on him, which is, some guy in a basement doing it. It's like, what have you done in the NFL?
Exactly. Somebody from their basement trying to tell Kurt
Yes.
Benkert, who played in the NFL, that, you weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
It kind of felt like he wasn't sure how he was going to react to that. And like as he's watching this, he's just like, I don't want to hear it about this daddy ball stuff. Like, what are we talking about? This guy's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. Go check it out. Last thing before we hit this last break, so real quick, Julian Lewis makes an appearance on Too Legendary out of nowhere yesterday.
Yep.
The highlights from it, he called Shedeur twin. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh yeah, I caught it.
Twinsky.
Yep. And then they're talking about I can't remember
That's
who brought it up, but someone's talking about the Sanders trips. I think it was Shedeur. And then Julian says, I'm not invited on the Sanders trips, and they go, or he says, I'm not there yet. Is what he said. Bucky's bringing up Jeffrey and stuff.
Well, and Bucky says, nah, you're family.
Yeah.
And Shedeur says, nah, you're family.
Yep. Shedeur opened the episode going, maybe future Colorado quarterback.
Where did that voice come from?
I don't know.
He does it. Justin Mayers does it. Tyler Brown does it.
Yep.
I honestly think that's just Shedeur's like thing that he does when he's clearly like,
I thought it was like when they were impersonating their dad, like Coach Prime. I thought that's what the voice was, but then I
think it's just gotten a life of its own.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Anyways, I thought it was cool, man. I think this has been mentioned on this show before, but for some reason, it getting brought up during that podcast episode just had me like, it had my brain in a pretzel. Juju Lewis is 16 years old.
It's insane, bro.
He's sitting there like chopping it up with Shedeur and Bucky very easily, so mature.
Yeah.
Very
and then
mature.
I think like, man, I know I was an idiot when I was 18, but I was actually like still a child when I was 16.
Facts.
And I'm just watching Juju up there being like just a grown man, acting like a grown man. And you can, certain things he says, you can still tell how young he is.
Yep.
But I'm like, this kid is 16 years old.
It's mind-blowing.
And then
bro.
you texted me, you said he threw 48 touchdowns in Georgia high school football when he was 14.
And took his team to the
As a
6A
freshman.
state title game. Yes.
He's not normal.
He's rare.
He's
That's
not normal.
incredibly not normal. Then they're talking about how if he could go to the NFL, if he wanted to after 3 years, he'd be 20 years old. Wouldn't even be able to legally drink on his draft night.
But Juju did mention in that too. He's like, well, I kind of want to stay senior. He mentioned senior year and stuff too. So we'll see.
I mean, he's got an advantage. Most college quarterbacks don't come out at 21.
Right.
So
Right.
even if he played his senior season, he would still be coming out as a young quarterback, which obviously gets, one of the kind of, in my opinion, silly things that gets valued around draft time.
Yeah.
Think about it, Bo Nix.
Right.
Broncos just drafted a 25-year-old.
Yep.
Juju will be on his second contract by the time he turns the age that Bo Nix is going to play his first game
Crazy
this
to think
weekend.
about.
It's insane. All right, let's take our final break.
Wait, we have to tie a bow on that. I mean, you have to be more
Of course.
more
but-
convicted than you've ever been.
Okay, well, he did have Antoine Hill Jr. on his podcast a few
Yes.
weeks ago too. So,
Yes.
But
But I'm not just talking about the appearance. I'm just talking about the conversation.
the relationship,
The relationship.
yeah, definitely, 100%.
It seems different.
100%.
Their relationship, Juju and Shedeur's relationship. Obviously, we talk about Juju and Coach Prime's relationship. I'm just refusing to close the door on that until the door is officially closed. You know what I'm saying? Especially with how we saw Miller Moss look under center for USC last week, right? He kind of looks like he's going to be their answer for at least the next couple years. I don't know how, if at all, that might affect Juju's decision, but it very well might, because he would be the day one starter for Colorado next season. That's for sure. I don't know if he could say the same for USC.
Still hasn't shut down his recruitment.
Exactly.
All right. Shout out to our friends at Red Hawk Roofing. We got you covered from Florida Roof here at DNVR.
Sheesh.
This is the only red I'm allowing this week.
This is not my decision.
I'm not.
Shout out Red Hawk Roofing. It is thundering, like raining right now, a little bit windy. It's hail season out here in Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
So don't wait to take care of any issues before any more storms like this hit. Hit up our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing. Supporting your local business or supporting your local teams means also supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. If you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921 and tell them DNVR sent you.
I'm gonna let you hit the other one too, because these are your people.
Oh, my homies at Westera. Like some of the first friends I made out here, basically. But yeah, shout out to Westera. They're a credit union. Don't go to those big old banks. Go to a local credit union like Westera, so you can have someone take care of you. They just launched their 90th anniversary CD that offers 9% annual percent yield. You can also earn high interest on balances as low as $500 and max of $3,000 in your account. They're insured by the NCUA. So only be offered for a limited time, so head on over to westeracu.com to learn more. Early withdrawal penalty applies. Fees could reduce earnings. Rates are accurate as of 9/1/2024. New money and in-branch offer only. Limited time offer, subject to change without notice. Review membership account agreement, disclosures, and information guide for additional details. Membership eligibility required. Insured by NCUA.
Nice.
Thank
Hey,
you.
I just want to quickly say shout out to all the Nebraska fans who are watching. Appreciate you guys driving up those views. But you've been here for the whole show, so I know you're entertained.
Yeah.
You got to at least hit us with a like. It's the
Clearly
least you could do for us.
They clearly like what they're seeing.
Exactly. All right, let's get to questions.
We're already there, huh? This show's just flown by.
This is a fun one today.
It was.
Big Teasy in the house. Did y'all hear Juju say Jeffrey is his buddy on the legendary podcast? He's been hanging out at Bucky's crib. We heard. We heard.
Shout out Jeffrey.
Shout out Big Teasy.
Best recruiting dog in the game.
Yeah, no doubt. Mark Lane, when's Juju announcing? I don't know, man. I don't think anyone really knows.
It's hard to say because technically he already announced
He's
long
committed.
ago.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, you know what I mean? So like,
Yes.
if he were to set an announcement date, then it would send the mess. It would make it pretty clear, in my opinion, that something was going to change.
Right.
You don't make an announcement to say that there's no new news.
Yes.
It's kind of like, this has happened with CU basketball quite a few times where you have a junior who's draft eligible who had a great season, and they call a press conference, and it's like, well, they're not calling a press conference to say I'm staying.
Coming back.
You know?
I'm not leaving.
Yeah. Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think if it does happen, if the flip happens, it'll just kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like now. Two Favorite Uncle says, question, is there a secondary in the Big 12 that can keep up with our receivers? Arizona's got some talent in the secondary. Anyone that comes to your mind?
Kansas. Kansas
Yes,
got
that's
two
right.
really
That's
good
right.
corners.
And two good safeties.
Kobe Bryant, Mello Dotson. And you mentioned the safeties. Yeah, I think Kansas, I'm really looking forward to that matchup. I think that's one that's kind of being slept on when people look at the schedule, especially with it being at Arrowhead. I'm really looking forward to that game and that secondary receiver matchup in particular.
Yeah. I will say the way to stop Colorado's receivers is not with your secondary. I think that even thinking that you can do that is wrong, just because even if you have two great corners, there's still two other guys you got to cover.
Real spill.
So the way to stop Colorado's receivers is with your pass rush.
Yep, exactly.
And there's a couple really good pass rushes in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Notably, I think Kansas State is pretty good up front, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting anyone?
Would have been the one I mentioned, yeah.
Jesse asked what network and time is the game? 5:30 NBC. 5:30 Mountain Time NBC.
Yes, sir.
The whole world going to be watching.
Yeah.
They already were last week. You had LeBron
course.
tweeting about Travis. Who else?
Aaron Gordon did.
Yeah,
There's some more
Didn't
NFL
Surtain
guys.
as well?
Yeah,
Pat
yes,
Surtain.
too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were watching last week. Even more going to be watching
yeah.
this week.
Eric Carrollton has a bye week. The week
Maybe
of
even
the,
Jared Polis.
Carrollton has a bye week. The week of the Cincinnati game. Do you think Colorado can get Julian for a game day visit? We'll see. He's already been 3 times. I think he already knows what to expect at Colorado.
Yeah.
Elijah, how do you feel about the over/under?
I think I saw yesterday it was at like 58.5.
59 now on
59?
Bet365. I say take the over.
I would say the overplays into Colorado's hands.
Yes, exactly.
I'm kind of feeling the under right now. Only because I feel like, again, Nebraska watched last week and saw how much success NDSU had early on with ball control and winning the time of possession. I feel like that's going to be Nebraska's plan early on to try to use their four-headed, rushing attack of running backs, obviously keep Dylan Raiola out of harm's way, and just see how much or how long you can keep the ball out of Shedeur's hands. So I think if that's what unfolds, especially early on, I can definitely see the under hitting.
Yeah, I actually, for some reason, lean that way too. And I don't know if it's just because I think that it's not. I think that Dylan Raiola is going to face adversity that he hasn't seen in his football career. And I think it's going to make things a little more difficult for him.
And it's usually those games where everybody thinks like, oh, yeah, this game's going to be a bunch of points scored. It's like, well, it typically doesn't turn out that way.
What was the one, though? Was that Joe Burrow and LSU? Who was the quarterback at Alabama that year? Is it Tua?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was. It was
Legendary
like 65-50 or something.
Crazy
Yeah,
game.
for sure.
Quickly, someone in the comments talked about select QB.
Stocks up.
stock is up. Shout out to DC, Daryl Colbert. I saw this in the, not only did I bring my own notes, I also read the notes that Curtis sent out. And one of the things in there said there are 2 active college quarterbacks who have thrown over 100 career touchdown passes. And it's Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward.
Shout out Select QB, man.
Cam Ward might have been one of the most impressive quarterbacks I watched play football this past weekend.
Yep.
He was super impressive, and he just looked so confident. Obviously, he was really good last year at Washington State, but he looked like he leveled up another level this year, and that's going to be fun to watch.
It's so funny because I follow, Select QB and DC on Instagram, so I see when these guys are working out.
Right.
And Cam made that throw where he bailed out of the pocket,
video.
rolled out and dotted it to the back of the end zone. And I immediately thought, like, I've seen them work that drill. And then a couple hours later, Select QB had the side by side of him doing it, and I just love that.
That's
man.
what we were talking about last week, like with that our favorite play of Shedeur from last week's game. It's kind of the same idea.
Literally,
Rolling out to your left. I mean, Cam didn't. They both kind of really set their feet. Obviously, Shedeur was more of a really get your feet in the ground and let it rip.
Yeah.
But I mentioned it then, like those are live game reps that you're getting in practice that show up on game day, and it's cool to see.
I mean, so Daryl's going to get probably 2 first-round quarterbacks this year. Yeah. Like, the stock is up. The stock is going to be up.
Mm-hmm. And he was also working with Julian over the offseason.
Interesting.
Daniel, what vulnerabilities do you guys think Nebraska is seeing on the NDSU film that they will try to attack? Scott already kind of talked about it, ball control type of stuff. You guys got anything else there? We got a lot of super chats to hit, so.
I think I'd be interested to see if they try to do like some wildcat stuff, something along those lines, because I don't think they want to run Raiola. I thought that was Colorado's biggest weakness in the game was containing quarterback scrambles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That shouldn't be a problem this weekend, ostensibly.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if there would be something they would put in to try to exploit that. Even though the design stuff Colorado did pretty well with. But I think they are going to try to run the ball a little more, maybe more to the outside.
Cortland, do you think our secondary is low-key being disrespected / overlooked at this point? Preseason talk was that we might have a top secondary in the nation. I don't think NDSU really tested them last week. So
yeah, it's just too early for all that.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And what happened was they had a very bend don't break approach, especially playing cover 1 70% of the snaps. Just like keep your man in front of you and try and make a play on him. They didn't get anything over the top, and so now people are talking about this great secondary allowed 83% completions, but again they locked up when they needed to in the second half, especially when they had a lead and NDSU wanted to throw it a little more. I was watching I think it was like a PFF college clip last night, and they mentioned the 70% cover 1, and then they also mentioned something interesting, which was that Lou Anarumo, who of course Robert Livingston comes from, is kind of famous for throwing a whole new game plan at a team
based on the matchup
on a week-to-week basis.
Yep.
So I'm very interested to see if Robert Livingston digs into that bag this week and really goes from all-man looks, which was an obvious decision against a team that you're a lot faster and more talented than, to really mixing up coverages and throwing stuff at Dylan Raiola that he hasn't seen before.
Yep. That's got to be the plan. That's got to be priority number 1 defensively. Confuse that young man at the line of scrimmage and make him do some uncharacteristic things.
Yep.
All right, super chats. Justin, repping the Buffs in Bama, 31-21, he says. Appreciate you, Justin. East Coast Kev, our guy. Are we going to ignore the fact that CSU just got destroyed by Texas?
There you go.
I'm dead.
We mentioned it on Monday's show. Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
They didn't. I mean, they hardly made a good play in the game.
Yeah. Brian, Flea and Hart are questionable coaches. They haven't developed anyone in their room. Those are Coach Brian's guys.
I mean, look at Levante Bentley, man. I don't know what we're talking about. He went from a guy who didn't play much at Clemson, got on the field, was still figuring it out at the beginning of last year, really came on at the end of last year, and played fantastic in week 1 against North Dakota State. So that's just one example, of a guy who has been developed under Coach Hart.
Can we just wait for going for people's heads until like maybe halfway through the season? Like something. Like, come on.
It's not how football fans operate.
Not how it works.
East Coast Kev again. It's good that Nebraska is developing Dylan. He should be ready by next season to jump in the portal and come to CU. Then again, we'll be fine without Walmart Patrick Mahomes.
I've already told y'all he's going to Georgia.
Yeah, he's going back.
It was all the plan. Let Carson Beck go to the league,
Right.
go play 12 games in Nebraska, and then go to Georgia.
Yep. Shout out to you, East Coast Kev. Thanks, man. Big Teasy again. Moving the pocket can help the line a bit, definitely. Didn't see too much of that last week. And then finally, Ravioli might see some pro defenses this week. You just talked about that, RK. So
And
good
he,
stuff.
upon rewatch, he gave that UTEP secondary more opportunities than I actually remembered
Yes.
in the first watch. So I think they had about 3 that could have really changed the game. And also, before we finish the show, I do need to mention one part of my notes that I haven't yet.
Do
And
it.
Jake, I'm going to have you finish this sentence for me. One thing about Nebraska,
They always fumble.
they're going to fumble that rock.
They do.
And they did in the red zone last week, and they're
Yes,
going to do
they
it
did.
again this week. It's woven into the fabric of their culture to put the ball on the ground.
Yep.
They always have, and they always will.
Let the people know where they can find you, Scott.
Go follow me on Twitter, man. Formerly known as X at Scott Procter ER_. Mean a lot, man. Go follow my work. Obviously, also on coloradoan.com. Got some great content cooking as always, and this weekend should be one of them ones.
Yep.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That is it.
There it is.
Tomorrow, one more day, and then we're on the bus.
Yep. Practice tomorrow, so we'll have a bunch of stuff from that.
Yeah.
See you then. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go, Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.